Welcome, welcome people, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Sunday live stream here on My Left Eye. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been with Keith and the cohorts here in the Fondue Lounge. Please do get comfortable. It's great to see you tonight. Davinia in the chat nice and early. Great to see you. Hope you've been well. I'm back with you for the first time since Wednesday's PMQ's live stream. So it's great to be here once again. I'm your host Lefty, for anybody who's not a regular viewer on My Left Eye. Please do hit the subscribe button if you, by chance, dropping in on the live stream tonight, and also hit the thumbs up button to help the stream reach a wider audience. We get the familiar scene here with Keith, Mandelson and Blur. Margaret Hodge to the left. She was actually interviewed in that documentary about the royal family and how they've been taking large sums of money from public services and the armed forces, etc. on Channel 4. That I briefly mentioned on the last live stream. That was pretty much the only thing that sort of tainted it for me. Margaret Hodge acting as though she's completely outraged by the revelations in the investigation, when she's culpable of some pretty abhorrent things herself, as are Keith and the cohorts here. Speaking of which, happy Socialist Sunday to everybody. It's also Remembrance Sunday this Sunday here in the UK. Keith was present, as was former Prime Minister and war criminal Tony Blair, seen on the picture on the wall just over Keith's right shoulder as we look at it. There's one particular shot, I think they were all in line there. David Cameron, Gordon Brown was also there. Morbius, welcome to the chat also. Yeah, we'll just wait for the lounge to fill up a little bit. I do have a comedy clip lined up to kick us off. Somebody who's not featured on the channel before, actually, so looking forward to sharing this one with you. It's a Bulgarian comedian, actually, but more to be revealed. No spoilers. Yeah, so as I was saying, please make sure you've hit thumbs up, subscribe, etc. If you're not subscribed, then you can jump in the chat about a minute later. There's other amazing ways to support the channel, of course, as well. You might want to consider a membership for just 99 pence. There are some perks for you to enjoy. And on that topic, here's a shout out to people who've recently subscribed to a membership and also who've bought memberships for other viewers, which is a great way to support the channel as well. Super chats are open on the stream if you've got something that needs my immediate attention. I do read out all super chats as long as they're within YouTube terms of service, of course. Just looking in the chat, is everything okay with the sound levels? Davinia's saying you can't hear me. Morbius, you're saying that you can. Am I coming through loud and clear? Politics Clive, welcome to the chat. Did you hear that? Help me out, people. Yeah, it's just me here this evening. Don't have any moderators or whatever for now. Okay, it looks like it's all good. Thanks for the clarification. Where was I? Where was I? Technical distractions aside. What else is coming up? So yeah, these arseholes, these Tel Aviv football hooligans who got what was coming to them in Amsterdam. I'm going to be taking a look at that, but I'm also completely disappointed and disgusted, I guess, by the propaganda that's followed. And a certain person on your screen right now might be culpable of such things, as well as Home Secretary David Lammy. I'll go on to that. Also, as expected, Trump, since winning the election, is jumping right into bed with Netanyahu. I'm going to take a look at that and what that could mean for a ceasefire in Gaza, and of course between the conflict in Lebanon, as well as attacks on other countries such as Syria and Iraq. Also on the topic of Trump, it's the COP summit this week, the climate summit. Yes, another one. Because every time they have one, they promise, you know, definitely we're going to do something now about climate change. Anyway, before I get on a rant about that, it looks like Donald is going to be pulling out, you know, no real surprise there. But that does have some pretty impactful meaning for confronting climate change within the United States. So I'll be having a look at that. And on the topic of climate change, there have been some developments about the Valencia Floods that I came across. Recently, a lot of things are being suppressed within Valencia. There's actually massive, huge turnouts in calls for leaders to step down. We talked about how the King made a visit to Valencia and was confronted by the public on the last live stream. But someone from within Valencia has spoken out about it, so I'm going to be taking a look at an excerpt from that video. And also, in the title as well, there's been a raid on members of Just Stop Oil again. But there's a bit of a twist to this one. I guess it's a bit embarrassing as far as the CPS are concerned. They went to raid a house to get things that are already being held by the police. Yeah. Plus a few bits more, of course. Just a quick tip as well. If you want to make sure you can see everything from the chat as we go through the stream, so I'll just bring the Fondue Lounge loop back in. Pardon me. Yeah, please do go up and change it from top chat to live chat, and that way you can see everybody's messages there. Doc Davis, thanks for joining us in the chat. Hope you've had a good week. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. Going to get going very shortly. Clips, articles, and so on and so forth. This comedy clip I've got lined up for you is particularly good as well. It's quite brief, but particularly good. Stand-up comedians particularly in a comedic sense, this is. I do have to highlight that. In the comedic sense, particularly brutal against an Israeli audience member. Yeah, so as we do with the weekday brews at 10, please feel free to throw up shows of solidarity with Palestine, flags, watermelons, etc. as we go through the stream. Obviously that's a topic that I like to be particularly vocal about on the channel. I'll post a link for this clip in the comments after the stream as well. Apologies, I've forgotten the name of the stand-up comedian, but he is very good, so I do want to give him every credit possible. I'll make sure I dig out my source on this clip. I just forgot to make a note of it when I downloaded it. Apologies, but I will give credit where it's due. Right, let's get started with this and then onto these dickheads in Tel Aviv. From Tel Aviv, I should say, but in the Netherlands. Thanks for the fondue, Keith. We're all good for cheese for now. Is there a vegan option, Keith? I guess I have to ask. Who knows? Probably not. So check this out.
Israel and Russia? You came to the right source then. What brings you to Sofia?
European residence.
Oh. Are you working on pagers, on walkie-talkies? What's your domain? What are you studying, man?
Economy.
That was harsh, but you know, deservedly so. That we went right in there for the. I'll just skip it back a couple of seconds. Are you into pages or walkie-talkies? Of course, referring to the attacks on Lebanon.
European residence.
Oh. Are you working on pagers, on walkie-talkies? What's your domain? What are you studying, man?
Economy.
Economy. Oh, you came to Bulgaria to study. How's your life here? Are people nice? Do you feel welcome here?
I feel great here. Nice people and
Nice people? I see that there's 2 empty seats on either side. That's the buffer zone. So there's the West Bank, that's Gaza. A chair without the people for a people without the chair, right? Huh? They left their stuff here. And you're like, it's mine now. It says in the Bible, 3,500 years ago, I own this chair, I own this chair, I own all the chairs.
Yes. Oh, yes. So apologies, I've forgotten the name of this stand-up comedian, but I will dig that out and put it in the comments. The bit where so this is mine now. Very good. Very good. From a venue in Sofia, apparently. So I just caught that one flying around. I will post the link to where I got it from. I'm not sure if it's the OP, the original poster, but I'll dig that one out and put it in the comments like I said. Right, I want to quickly go through because obviously Israel was the topic of that absolute roasting there from the Bulgarian comedian. But during the week, there was this awful incident where far-right football thugs from Tel Aviv romped through the streets of Amsterdam for a as fans of a football match. Sorry, it's not a laughing matter, but just asterisks where the football match is concerned. They got the arses handed to them 5-0. Anyway, so these absolute knuckle-dragging morons sang racist chants walking through the streets. When they got to the football stadium, they interrupted the minute's silence for the aforementioned victims of the Valencia Floods. And there's been, the narrative on this has been appalling. Has been absolutely appalling. Now, originally, there was a Sky News report. A few reporters actually put out what was going on, that these hooligans were running through the streets, ripping down flags from people's houses, chanting racist slogans, anti-Arab slogans, and so on and so forth. But then they were retracted, then they were deleted. And then a short time later, the narrative came out that these were anti-Semitic attacks targeting Jewish people. And then a short time after that, the word pogrom was being thrown around like confetti. And I just can't, the absolute obvious levels of propaganda for people who don't think that the internet exists. Hedy, welcome to the chat as well. Great to see you tonight. Just talking about these Tel Aviv thugs in the Netherlands earlier this week and the narrative about it, but I'm absolutely repulsed by it. I'm absolutely repulsed at these obvious propagandist tropes that are being thrown around. So let's see what's happening. There was a really good report. I shared this on the My Left Eye Twitter page earlier. If you don't follow us on social media, please do check us out at My Left Eye UK on Twitter. Always Twitter, never X. Also on Mastodon at My Left Eye, no UK, just caps at the start of each word there. So I'm just opening up this thread from the Al-Quds network that I shared earlier. That is, of course, the Palestinian name for Jerusalem, I believe. They're a good media source as well, the Quds News Network, so apologies, it's just, I'm just going to try and refresh it. It's taken a while to load for some reason. And they've done an excellent timeline of the real events, how it should be reported from people on the ground. And these idiots got what was coming to them, and now they're trying to play the victims. But UK media has been backing this up. So has the Prime Minister in tweets that he put out, as well as David Lammy, the Home Secretary. I've not downloaded it, but I saw an excellent screenshot from someone earlier. And when you're trying to look up the event, 4 almost identical headlines come up from major global news networks. We're talking, you know, the BBC, CNN. In verbatim, the headlines are exactly the same. Almost, quotes, as if they've been given to them as a narrative from certain powers. Right, that's loaded up now, so I'll just I'll just have to reshape this. That seems okay. Okay. Check them out. It's at Kuds Nen, so that's Kuds capital Nen, the Kuds News Network, if you don't follow them already. So first of all, in Amsterdam, a match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax was held in the English League. However, some Maccabi Tel Aviv fans and even one player refused to observe the minute's silence during the match for the victims of the floods in Valencia. More about those floods later, but here's a clip of that. Bit of buffering there. They also set fireworks off during the minute's silence, from what I understand. They chanted anti-Arab slogans under police protection and attacked Palestinian flags. Let's just take a quick look at that. It's my understanding that the chants went something along the lines of death to Arabs, this kind of thing. There was also something about, I was trying to think how they put it. It was something along the lines of, why are there no schools in Gaza? Because the children are all dead. Something along those lines. Absolutely abhorrent. Far right, fascist, Zionist chants going on there. Are you familiar with the central station of Amsterdam, Hedy? Thanks for that in the chat. I'm not exactly sure, but it is, again, my understanding that as soon as they arrived at the airport and were going through the public transport system, these chants commenced immediately, and they were relentless in the chanting, as well as the violence once they got into the city itself. This is all before the match took place, just to re-emphasise that, before their team got defeated 5-0. Well done, Ajax. This is where they started to rip flags down.
Ole!
They're chanting in English there.
Ole! Ole!
That's one of many examples of them tearing down Palestine flags. Local residents responded, leading to physical altercations. Several Israeli rioters were beaten and 10 were injured, with some reportedly missing. It goes on to say the Israeli media is now discussing possible kidnappings. There was nothing of the sort, just to be very clear about that. Israeli media lying? Are you kidding me? So of course, imagine if you live in a city, or you're near a city or your town, wherever they're from, far-right football hooligans come and sing racist chants and start tearing down flags in your community, what do they think is going to happen? What's going to be the reaction from the public? That they think that they can get this, the sense of exceptionalism that this maniacal Zionist mindset has just absolutely knows no bounds. It really doesn't. They see everyone who's non-Zionist as being non-human. They certainly see the people who they're occupying and imposing a genocide upon as non-human. The absolute hubris is beyond comprehension. One of the Israeli rioters involved in the incident was identified as a soldier in the Israeli occupation army. No surprise there. What those rioters were doing in Amsterdam is the same as what the IDF have done all across Gaza, all across the West Bank in Palestine, and that they're trying to do in Lebanon. But at the moment, they really are, as in this situation, getting their asses handed to them in Lebanon and on the streets of Amsterdam. You can see there were a lot of altercations, physical altercations there. There were massive marches again today, and they literally got chased down, they got run out of town. There were marches today to emphasise the support for Palestine on the streets of Amsterdam, so that's really good to see. Please do throw up those flags as well in the chat. So, I mentioned earlier on that there was the retraction from Sky News. Of all outlets, the Daily Mail, yes, the same Daily Mail, whose funding during World War II went towards the you-know-whos, have actually reported it the right way. Israeli football hooligans tear down Palestine flags in Amsterdam as taxi drivers fight back in the night chaos. So taxi drivers involved as well as local residents. Just a reminder, the match ended in a heavy defeat for Maccabi Tel Aviv, with Ajax absolutely twatting them 5-0. Well done Ajax. But even the Daily Fail reported this the right way. And then, yeah, the Dutch, they don't take any crap. They don't take any crap. We don't like the far right here in the UK, that is to say, the citizens of the UK. And it's the same in the Netherlands, because you have to understand that they were occupied during World War II. And they also took their revenge when the war ended. And they're not gonna have that. They continue to speak out for a ceasefire in Gaza. They continue to be critical of Israel. This is the citizens I'm talking about, because unbelievably, leaders of the Netherlands came out and followed the same narrative as Starmer and Lamy. But the people know what's going on, and that's why there were those marches today. In I'm just going back to the thread now. Just pick a few more points out. In response to the events in Amsterdam, the Israeli occupation army banned all military personnel from flying to the Netherlands until further notice. All Israeli soldiers currently in the Netherlands have been instructed to return to Israel immediately, and I'm sure they won't be welcomed back again. Yeah, they've been ordered back. Because, as in Lebanon, they're actually coming across people who can fight back. They're not just able to pick on innocent elderly people, children, women, civilians. The Dutch refused to allow an Israeli military plane to land in Amsterdam. Dutch security officials have not approved the landing of the Israeli Air Force plane, delaying the first rescue mission. No, it's not a rescue mission, I wouldn't go so far. They've been sent with the tails between the legs. They've been sent packing, that's for sure. There are 7 Israelis missing. I'm not sure if there's an update on this. 5 in hospitals, an estimated 10 to 20 injured. Efforts are underway to evacuate 2,751 Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from Amsterdam. Just a few comments as well. Israelis, these are some of the comments. This one's from Jeffrey Kramer. Israelis act like they own the world. They piss in people's faces and call it rain. They get a beat down, and Israeli bad behaviour is suddenly the world's fault and problem. Yeah, good point. Context is everything. Israeli thugs instigated havoc and terrorised a community. That's true as well. And yeah, mainstream media have been throwing the H word around, as well as the pogrom. Which, you know. Do you remember recently it was put to David Lammy in the House of Commons as to whether what Israel was doing in Palestine was or was not a genocide? And his answer, very feebly, very pathetically, was that by identifying it as so would undermine other historical genocides. And I believe he referred to the Holocaust in Europe and a few other examples. But what the official narrative to this incident does is it actually undermines the original pogrom itself. And again, it's boy cried wolf bullshit. And all that does is distract from actual examples of anti-Semitism and actual historical examples of horrid crimes. So you undermine the original pogrom by making such analysis. That's one of the worst elements about it, as well as the fact that it's a complete insult to everybody's intelligence. The Prime Minister himself is going along with a style of propaganda that was even outdated in the 20th century, and we're here in 2024. They think that the truth can't get out because, yeah, a very small amount of people own 80% of the print media in the world. Rupert Murdoch, the Barker brothers, for example, Lord Rothermere. And that's not how most people get the news these days. Mainstream media news viewing figures are down as well. So that was a good thread there from the Quds News Network. We'll move on in just a sec. Please do bear with me. Just need to top up the old drink. We'll move on in one sec. And I'm going to check out some of your comments in the chat as well. Bear with me for just a moment. Thanks for your patience there. I just noticed a recommendation in the chat as well. Left Laser did a good report on that. Thanks for the tip there, Morbius. I'll try and check that out. Just make a note of that one. Yeah, and you're right as well, Hedy. Even the hardcore hooligans of England these days don't behave as badly as those Maccabi Tel Aviv fans did during the week. Bunch of pricks, aren't they? Man. Speaking of pricks, great segue. Still sticking with the topic of Israel as well, but also Trump's recent election victory. I'll just get this one lined up. So he's been selecting his cabinet and so on and so forth, but he's also been pretty quick to reassure Netanyahu that they're the very best of pals. But this is bad news, of course. It's awful. Thanks, Keith. This is certainly bad for the prospect of a ceasefire. In Gaza. So I'm just going to get this queued up. Just meh. Yeah, there we go. So Netanyahu has said, I don't know if you can read it just on the left with the bullet points there, the second one down, ironically named bullet points. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he and President-elect Trump see eye to eye on the Iranian threat and have spoken 3 times since the election. Now, that doesn't exactly cry ceasefire to me. In fact, if anything, further escalation in the Middle East. This doesn't look great for Palestine. International reaction to the US election continues, with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he and Trump see eye to eye on the Iranian threat and the danger posed by it. In a statement, Netanyahu says the pair have spoken 3 times in the last few days, calling them important conversations that were designed to build on the relationship between the two countries. His statement also touches on the recent attacks on Israeli football fans in Amsterdam. The Prime Minister says, "We will do what needs to be done to protect ourselves and our citizens." Well, how about when your citizens get to a foreign country, they don't act like a bunch of dickheads, and then they try and cry victim when they get what's coming to them. But the truth of the matter is that the IDF are getting absolutely destroyed in the border in Lebanon. That's not going anywhere. The Iranians have taken out a very large amount of Israelis' defence mechanisms. That's why they had to get the United States to come in and provide these anti-missile units. They are struggling. This isn't coming through mainstream UK narratives, but that's the truth of the matter, and they need the US to back them up. What else? Yeah, I've not got the video, just very quickly on the Ukraine-Russia war as well. This weird video that Trump's put out, have you seen it? Might try and find it before we get to the end of the stream. But essentially, it says, I can't remember how long it says it's going to be, I think it said 38 days or something like that. Yeah, he must be referring to when he's sworn in, which will be in January, so that'll be, what, in about 40 days or so. That he's going to be cutting off the allowance for Zelensky, you know, like he's a teenager. His pocket money, his allowance, something like that. And he's mentioned that he wants to bring, he's going to bring an end to the conflict particularly quickly. Now, initially, there was great speculation that that would mean Ukraine conceding territory to Russia in order to bring about an end to proceedings, but they've said that that's not what they're going to do, although they are pretty much definitely going to have to consider that Crimea is going to be annexed by Russia anyway, but that's another point. So is this it? Is just, I mean, is he just going to leave Zelensky in the lurch? I don't know. Obviously, there was a large amount of US money. Sorry, I don't know why that's jumped to the bottom there. Posts are continuing to come in on this feed. Where was I? It's transpired that money that was supposed to be for United States hospitals, schools, etc., were put in to sending money and weapons to Ukraine. Is that going to end? Hev, good evening. Great to see you. Yeah, but I don't want to get too carried away with that one. Like I said before, with Trump back in charge, I'm definitely not going to be short of content. Which can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing as far as global affairs are concerned. Right, but just quickly on to the COP now, the climate summit, the 29th one that there's ever been. It does look like Trump's not going to take part in it. I've got a clip here, you know, just in case we need reminding before I get onto a couple of articles. If you need reminding about Trump's attitude towards climate change, I've got a brief clip here. It's, you know, unsurprisingly, it's Mad Ramblings. This is from when he was on the campaign trail, I believe, and we've got another 4 years of this to come. Great, great stuff. Kit, great to see you in the chat as well. And Odin Allfather. Thanks a lot, Morbius, for pointing that out as well. Yeah, Elon Musk has been having secret talks with Putin as well. Does that come as much of a surprise? I'm not sure it does. Musk was, quote, all in on Trump winning the election as well. He's managed to buy himself some time on the stock market with that victory. That's another subject as well. But they're, yeah, they're all in on it together. So this is what Trump thinks about climate change. Deluded ramblings, of course. Strap yourselves in for this one.
We don't have a global warming problem. They don't use that term anymore anyway because, as you can see, the planet, it's very cool out here today, isn't it?
It's very cool out here today, isn't it? Donald, this year, been the hottest year globally on record, defeating the previous record set last year. It feels a bit cold today, doesn't it? Right, it gets worse.
Go crazy when I say, but it's not global warming because at certain points it starts to cool a little bit, like now, but like this period, and they're getting killed with global, so they changed it. You know what the term is? Climate change.
Okay, well, first of all, some things to do with climate change do fluctuate. Some things continue to rise. The thing with them is average temperatures. For example, that's what the focus is as well. This is insane though. But so he thinks that it's completely illegitimate because he thinks that they've changed the name from global warming to climate change. No, Donald. Global warming is one element of climate change. There are others. It's not that they've changed the name. People do still talk about global warming, but there are other factors, including sea level rises. You're talking about the breakdown of ecosystems. You're talking about the extinction of animals. You're talking about the extinction of other ecosystems, plant life, for example, trees. The whole package, you're looking at methane levels, CO2 levels, this kind of thing. They're elements of climate change also, as well as how things begin to drive each other as you get further into climate collapse. And these are known as feedback loops that you can't get away from. That's the runaway phase of climate change, as it were. Donald's completely unaware of these, of course, but no, global warming, Donald, is just one element of climate change. They've not changed the name, and it's not some sort of look. Whoa. Is it just me? Okay, guys, can you see this? I've paused it there. Where I've paused it, can you see the guy whose head is just to the right of the logo as you look at the screen? Are his eyes lit up? Like in, I don't know, a horror film? Or is it just me? Are they lit up yellow? What's in this tea? I can't unsee that now. I can't unsee that. Can you see that as well? Weird. Anyway.
This way, if it gets warmer, it's fine. If it gets cooler, if it rains, if it snows.
It is doing it again. Look. Unbelievable. Hev, welcome with a membership as well. Thanks a lot for the 5 gifted also. Great way to show solidarity with the channel. Thanks for your contribution there. Thank you very much indeed. Hope all the new members enjoy the perks if any of them are watching. Also, Morbius gifted 5 as well. Thank you so much to Hev and Morbius. Great stuff. And yeah, I will update the members list with the new gifted memberships. Thanks again. Happy Socialist Sunday, solidarity. Right, Donald, do go on with your incredible sage wisdom on climate collapse.
Comes down in the middle of the summer. It's climate change, you know. And we've spent trillions and trillions of dollars on things that, you know, putting windmills all over these magnificent plains and fields and valleys and oceans.
Now, this bit, I'm pre-warning here. So he's referring to wind farms, I guess. That's not something that I'm sure Trump supporters are particularly fond of, or him himself. But the way he diverts away from that is absolutely incredible. And again, where I've paused it, this guy's got yellow eyes. What is going on with that? Can you see him? That's crazy. That's crazy. Thanks for throwing up the Palestine flags in the chat as well. And Davinia celebrating 5 months of memberships. Thank you very much for your continued support on the channel and for sticking with me here on My Left Eye. Again, shout out to Morbius and Hev for those gifted memberships also. Yeah, can you see that? Yeah. Should be in shot there. This is crazy. So he's talking about wind farms, which are of course a good thing.
And then they had one whale in, I think, 50 years come up. And then
a whale. And then a whale came up. One whale in the last 50 years came up. I don't know what he means by came up. I believe he's about to refer to one that was stranded on the beach. What's he getting at? How does this relate to wind farms?
year they had like 18 of them wash ashore, die. And it's all a big hoax. We don't have it low.
What? Just that last part again, please.
Plains and fields and valleys and oceans. And then they had one whale in, I think, 50 years come up. And then last year they had like 18 of them.
There was one whale only one whale in the last 50 years washed up on a beach, and then all of a sudden there were 18 of them. And this disproves climate change because wind farms something. What? It's just like the rumblings of a drugged horse. And again, where I've put that guy has got yellow eyes. What's going on?
Wash ashore, die, and
No, don't exhaust your brains trying to make any sense of that. That certainly doesn't disprove global warming, nor does it disprove climate change, I'm afraid. But look at what America's being led by now. This guy's absolutely crazy for oil production. And now he's abandoning COP29. The thing with these COP meetings, of course, if they did work, they would have only had to have had a couple of them. They're on the 29th attempt now. And I'm pretty sure that way back in the early days of the channel, My Left Eye, I referred to the last one as well. But one of the worst things about them is the pro-fossil fuel lobbyists see this as an absolute holiday in terms of marketing, hobnobbing, schmoozing. They spend an inordinate amount of time trying to, because all these global leaders are there in the same place at the same time, you see. So they see it as a really good opportunity for them to go around and actually make deals on fossil fuels when the very concept of the COP meetings is supposed to include things like transitioning away from fossil fuels. So they get down there, they take the checkbooks, whatever they used to persuade people, and this is where deals are done. And there was a breaking news story today that a chief executive has been filmed promoting fossil fuel deals. So Elna Sultanov caught out. Let's take a look at that.
As I said, we have a lot of pipeline infrastructure. We have a lot of gas fields that are to be developed. We have a lot of green projects that SOCAR is very interested in. There are a lot of joint ventures that could be established, potential joint ventures. Our SOCAR trading is trading oil and gas all over the world, including in Asia. So to me, these are the possibilities to explore. But in any case, this is something that you need to be talking to SOCAR. And I would be happy to create a contact between yourself and them, your team and their team, so that they can start discussions.
So he's going to line them up with the Qataris to get a deal on fossil fuels. And this is the chief executive of COP29. The report says former head of UN body responsible for the climate talks told the BBC that his actions were completely unacceptable and a betrayal of the COP process. That's taking place, of course, tomorrow through until the 22nd of November. You can see there, as well as the being the chief executive of COP29, Sultanov is also the Deputy Energy Minister of Azerbaijan and is on the board of SOCAR. Azerbaijan's COP29 team's not responded to a request for comments. Oil and gas accounts for about half of Azerbaijan's total economy and more than 90% of its exports, according to United States figures. And you can see the nodding donkeys, as they call it there. In Azerbaijan. During the meeting, he told the potential sponsor that the aim of the conference was solving the climate crisis and transitioning away from hydrocarbons in a just, orderly and equitable manner. Well, that's again the phrasing, an equitable manner. Just, orderly and it has to happen now, or else we're all absolutely screwed. The planet is going to be screwed. It's not going to be, oh, as soon as we've figured out how we can try and make money out of it, or when it's convenient to the fossil fuel companies. It has to be now. No, no, no. Flow Snake, welcome to the chat. Hope you're very well tonight. So we said there in the video, there are a lot of joint ventures that could be established. SOCAR is trading oil and gas all over the world, including in Asia. He then described natural gas as a transitional fuel, adding, we will have a certain amount of oil and natural gas being produced, perhaps forever. UN climate science body, the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, acknowledges that there will be a role for some oil and gas up to 2050 and beyond. However, it's been very clear that developing new oil and gas field is incompatible with limiting warming to 1.5 degrees C. Did, of course, reach that limit this year as an average temperature. That's compared to pre-industrial temperature levels, of course. And there he is, and there's just, apparently, you know, there are thousands of lobby delegates who go to the COP meetings as well. And the bigger the conference is, the more there are. I mean, one of the more well-known ones was, of course, the Paris COP, which obviously develops into the Paris Climate Agreement, which the UK is a signatory of. And there are 100,000 people, 100,000 delegates at that. Ironically, a lot of them would have gone by private jet, of course. This is just another reason why these meetings are all talk and no action. We need deeds, not words. And yeah, they can get together and agree on an aim, what they can do collectively. Unless they actually implement them, then there's no point in having the meetings. We're up to the 29th one now. They've been happening for nearly 30 years. So for nearly 30 years, they've been saying that we have to change, and the rate of progress is appallingly slow. Appallingly slow. They need to get it together. They really do. And yeah, before it's too late, like you're saying there in the chat, Divinia, we've reached tipping points already. There were already others that we're heading towards at an exacerbated rate. Things that I mentioned earlier, sea level rises and so on. We're probably, I'm sure you might be familiar with this meme as well. We're going to be the first species that went extinct because it wasn't cost effective to save humanity. Okay, I'm going to take a little break with a comedy clip before I get onto some other matters, sort of continuing with climate change, as it were. Take a look at some revelations about the Valencia floods, like I said, and also the raid on supporters of Just Stop Oil that happened recently as well. So I'm just going to take a quick break with Matt Green's latest vid. Bear with just while I get that queued up. So it's generally just about the result of the US election as well. That's another thing Trump said, wasn't it? He says, was it during his campaign or his last presidency, when he said we're going to drill, 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 baby, whatever it was. God. I'll just get this. Just get this queued up. Do give Matt Green a follow if you're not familiar with him already. You can find him on mattgreencomedy.com. He's also on YouTube. And once I've skipped through the ads here, I'll be happy to show his latest content. Oh, get on with it. Right, here we go. Just had to wait for the ad to finish there. I'll get this lined up. There we go. Matt Green, everyone. Apologies, that was muted. Let's restart. There we go.
As the world continues to digest the indigestible news of Donald Trump's victory, everybody is asking, how did it happen? Our WTF, OMG and FFS correspondent Jonathan Goodenough has more. Yes, that's right, pundits and commentators may disagree about a lot, but they all agree on one thing, that whatever they care about was the deciding factor, right? Yes, experts agree that it was definitely Gaza, or definitely immigration, or definitely inflation, or definitely Ukraine, or definitely Joe Rogan, or definitely Elon Musk, or definitely woke, or definitely trans rights, depending on which one of those issues they were banging on about before. Is that everything? No, there are others who think that the voters just didn't like Joe Biden's age, or Kamala Harris's gender, or just really wanted to annoy Rory Stewart. It's a strong choice. How are Democrats reacting? Like a man who's walked in on his wife having sex with a dog for a second time. A mixture of shock, horror and disbelief, and also a creeping suspicion that there must be something really wrong with them for this to have happened again. And Kamala Harris has conceded. Yes, she gave a heartfelt speech about not giving up hope, continuing to fight, and promising her supporters that in the end, things will be okay. And will they? Probably not. So what does this tell us about the American electorate? Well, I think it means that a majority of them were willing to vote for Trump because they think he offers them a better life than they currently have. And will that happen? Probably not. It almost seems as though Donald Trump is unstoppable, that by refusing to admit defeat or any error, or ever apologizing for anything, he somehow hacked the democratic system. That's true, he's revealed a basic truth that if you keep saying that you're amazing and never reveal any self-doubt, eventually enough people will agree with you. But I don't think it's true to say that he couldn't have been stopped. Really? Who could have stopped him? Well, there are many people over the years, particularly in the Republican Party, of course, but one name sticks out. Mitch McConnell. Remind me? The leader of the Republicans in the Senate who refused to impeach Trump after January the 6th. If he had been impeached, he wouldn't have been able to run again. Why didn't he do it? He was essentially scared of Trump's base, but also hoped he'd been so damaged by the fallout he wouldn't regain support in the future. Essentially going by that old adage that if your opponent is down, you need to let them get back up again, give them a cup of tea, and have a bit of a rest before you try and finish them off. What has McConnell said since? Well, he swung behind Trump like every other Republican, but also urged him to keep funding Ukraine against Russia. And will that happen? Probably not. How will all of this affect the UK? In multiple terrible ways, no doubt, but one concrete example is that Kemi Badenoch used her first appearance at Prime Minister's Questions as leader of the opposition to demand that Keir Starmer apologise to Trump for the accurate things that David Lammy said about him in the past. Is that a wise move politically? You could argue no, because Trump is very unpopular in the UK at the moment, and his policies could cause us a lot of financial harm. But on the other hand, voters do like a winner, and Trump is definitely that, so time will tell. How do you reflect on the results, personally? Well, as the Chinese curse goes, may you live in interesting times, and the times at the moment are pretty bloody fascinating. Finally, some of our viewers may have been upset by the result. Can you give them a note of positivity to take them into the weekend? No. Thank you, Jonathan. Next up, pub?
Matt Green there, check him out, subscribe to his YouTube and spur the ad. Spur the advertisement. Yeah, he made a good point there. If Trump had been indicted, then he wouldn't have been on the ticket even, but there is, of course, more than one reason why the Democrats didn't get over the line. I said on the last stream, I think one of the fundamental ones was that even though Harris took over Biden, she didn't make any changes in policy, and the idea of her being brought in to replace him was to catch up because they were behind in the polls. So, you know, just sticking with the same thing but a different face obviously wasn't very effective. Morbius mentioning in the chat that you've heard a theory that the Democratic Party wanted Trump to win just to maintain the status quo. Well, I wouldn't entirely be surprised if that was the case. I certainly think there's reason to suspect that they'll use this to move further to the right politically. Complete lack of self-awareness with that move as well, by the way, because one of the contributory reasons was that the Democrats have been trying to imitate the Republican Party for a while now, just the same way that Labour have turned into Tory Party Mark II, and people weren't encouraged to go out and vote for that, especially a lot of young people as well. So yeah, of course, the same way that we have establishment here in the UK, you've got the status quo there in the States. And you can't say you'd be massively surprised if that's the way they actually wanted it to go down. All in all, Father, you think it was the same as last time, and they knew what Hillary Clinton would do, and they hoped Trump would do differently. So this time, they knew what the Dems were going to do. It's sort of a protest vote, I guess, in a sense, yeah. The turnout was probably pretty low as well. And that was the thing, you know, Hillary Clinton was advising Kamala Harris. Of course, it's like, advising her on what? On how to lose against Trump like she did. And they said that people from the Labour Party in the UK were actually giving advice to Kamala Harris as well. Well, I guess it must have been Jonathan Ashworth in that case. But yeah, you're right as well, Morbius. Differences just in presentation. Just two sides of the same coin. Choose two cheeks of the same arsehole, as someone once put it as well. Absolutely. Right, I've got another clip I want to line up here as well. I'll just wait for the ads to go. And so you're all familiar with what happened in the floods in Valencia. But a lot of the news of what actually went down has been suppressed in Spanish media and global media as well. But this YouTuber's chosen to speak out about it. This clip's actually from a Spanish language course channel. So this must be one of the presenters of that. It's the Polyglot Panda. The whole video is 22 minutes long, but I'm just going to play this chapter, the 7th chapter. I'll put a link for the video in, so please do check it out in full. But this is about when the king went to visit Valencia. As we know, there was literal mudslinging as he was confronted by the public. Okay, there we go. Let's see that. Okay, yeah.
And this is something that you might have heard as well on the news. The king visited Valencia, and Valencians threw mud and shouted insults at him.
Just very quickly, sorry, I forgot to say, there is sort of buzzing, humming noise in the background. That's actually on the YouTube video itself. I can't get that off, so that's not a problem with any of your equipment at your end. I just want to reassure you, apologies. There's a bit of a buzzing noise in the background, but the points he's making are very well put there.
And that is not true. Those official media, they are telling lies. Mud and the shouts were aimed at two politicians that were there. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and the head of the Valencian government, Carlos Mazón. They were the ones the people was furious with for failing us, for letting people die. They are the assassins. Let me clarify this, because it's very important that we understand the priorities in that kind of situations, okay? People there were dying. Everyone knew someone who died. Streets were filled with dead people. Streets were filled with shit and mud. And
every single family affected by this, as you heard there, everybody who was left knew someone who had died. Just quickly going to the chat as well, Morbius, you pointed, yeah, Spain has been suffering massively under climate change over the years, and the ground temperature in 2022 actually got to 60 degrees Celsius. 60 degrees Celsius. And now this massive flooding. There's been other deluges in Barcelona, and Valencia could actually be set to get hit again by further flooding. And the government knew what was coming, and they did naff all about it.
water. Many people lost everything, their lives and everything. They were destroyed. So this is the truth. For most of us, we didn't care at all about the king. The king in Spain is a symbolic figure with no real powers. He is just the representation of the Spanish population, but he cannot do anything. He's not responsible for anything. He's there, let him stay there. I don't give a shit about him. But Sanchez, but Mazón, the Prime Minister and the government of Valencia? No, they are the ones responsible. So we were not shouting at the king, we were shouting at the motherfuckers politicians who killed, because they killed by not taking action, they killed people. And don't get me started about the amount of dead people, because I'm gonna talk about that later. Because they are hiding numbers from us. Everything in the media is a lie. There's way more dead people than they are telling us, and there's way more mess than they are letting the world know. Anyway, coming back to the topic, as soon as things got heated, Sanchez ran for his car while people pounded on it, desperate to make him understand the situation that we were living. Meanwhile, the king and the queen actually stayed there. They have, again, no responsibilities, they have nothing to do there, and they stayed there to listen and talk to us. Again, I don't give a shit about them, okay? But at least that's a little, it's the first tiny proof of humanity that we have seen in 5 freaking days. And it's not even a tiny bit of humanity coming from the responsibles. It's just a guy who has nothing to do here. But by then, it didn't matter if you were left or right, whatever. We were all just Valencians, and we were fed up with being lied to. They told us that the military had arrived, that help was there. Total bullshit. If not for the volunteers, many more would have died. That's thousands and thousands of anonymous people from Valencia and the rest of Spain doing the work that the freaking government didn't do.
Yeah, like I said, pretty shocking how the true numbers have been suppressed there. In the full video, he also talks about how they totally screwed up the evacuation procedure for something that predictably was coming. Also, how lack of military aid, etc., left thousands of citizens in absolutely appalling conditions. So please do check out the video in full. I'll put that in the comments for the stream once we're done. And yeah, that wasn't reported on the BBC how government officials would almost, you know, run out of town. But can you blame them for being so angry, so frustrated? When he mentioned that everybody who was left knew someone who'd been killed, and he talks about the actual true scenes of devastation as well in that full vid, so check it out if you can whilst I'm on the subject of climate change. Again, there have been raids on supporters of Just Stop Oil. And I'll get that lined up for you now. But like I said at the top of the stream, they actually went there to confiscate equipment that they already had, and this was at the property of a guy called Sam. Regular viewers will know that I'm also a supporter of Just Stop Oil, and I've taken actions with JSO as well. A lot of the people who are currently incarcerated, given appallingly long sentences as well. Friends of mine as well, and this guy Sam, who you're about to see, whose home got raided, is a lovely fella as well, and this is an absolute invasion of privacy, as well as ridiculous because of the fact that they were looking for equipment that had already been seized in an earlier raid. So I'll just go through their Twitter for this. They've shared a video of the raid itself. Just bear with, I've got to dig this out. I forgot to bookmark this one. Oh, here we go. Yeah, of course. I didn't bookmark it because I'd shared it on on the channel's Twitter, I believe. Oh no, it was in the it wasn't actually on the JSO page, it was someone else's, right. Yeah, it was on the JSO page. Thank you for your patience. Right, here we go.
tiny top, like son's laptop, iPad, and my wife's laptop, which she needs for work.
If we think you could use it to commit offences, then we can take it.
She's going to take it again.
It depends. We're going to have a look, and I will tell you and people in here exactly what it is coming out, and it will be listed in this documentation. Okay?
We had this months ago, and she's still not got her laptop back.
I appreciate that.
Well, you don't appreciate it.
Well, I wasn't dealing with it, so I have no idea what's been taken. This is something we have to do as part of the investigation. Okay? And if it's not relevant, then it will be returned as quickly as possible.
Sorry.
What time did you come, Harry?
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, my laptop hasn't been back for months and months.
Right, I appreciate that.
An iPad. Huh?
See you as soon as I can.
Okay.
So the things are already in police possession and have been for some time, and they went to take a laptop that they've already taken before. Now, Sam's the one of the graphic designers at Just Stop Oil, designs logos, posters, this kind of thing. He does take actions as well. I don't know what they're expecting to find on these laptops. Of course, other supporters of JSO have been jailed simply for having Zoom meetings as well recently. And this is just, as I said, a complete breach of privacy. It's totally unnecessary. I don't know what they're expecting to get from this. Phil, thanks a lot for celebrating your 6 months of membership. Great to have you here on the channel for the last 6 months. Thanks for sticking it out on my left eye. Great to see you back in the chat again. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so as we're saying, I'll keep you up to speed with this. He was arrested himself. I think he's now been released. Earlier on in the week as well, 2 other JSO supporters were arrested for spray painting outside the United States Embassy in a protest against the occupation of Gaza as well. They've been released. And they're being charged with criminal damage for spray painting a wall outside the US Embassy. So I'll keep you up to speed with that when I hear more about developments of if there are going to be any charges or anything. But looking at what's happening in Valencia and Spain, these are the kind of things that we face in the future right here in the UK. You know, people are just using their right to protest to stand up to this. And of course, a fundamental part of that is the European Convention on Human Rights, something that the Tories were hell-bent on taking us out of. It is, of course, everybody's given right to choose to protest against what they wish, and we can't have those rights removed. Let's have a quick glimpse through the chat as well. Divinu, you got off a plane at Atlanta Airport once in September, and the heat coming from outside was unbearable. Yeah, it's happening in Spain. I mean, obviously there are wildfires, floods and all sorts happening in the United States of America. I guess Trump and his supporters will probably put that down to people not being anti-woke enough or something like that. who knows? But the intensity of these events is going to continue to rise. The frequency of these events is going to continue to rise unless we do something about it. Andy Carter, welcome back as well. Great to see you also. Right, I'm just going to flick the screen off for a sec. I want to see if there are any developing news stories that I want to go into. Yeah, just a quick bit on this. This came out earlier. Domestic matters here. Specifically the budget, Rachel Reeves's latest budget, which has faced criticism from all sides. Let's be honest, it was not a great budget. I went over that in other live streams, so I won't go into the bare bones of why I disapprove of it, but this is one of the apparent after effects. Restaurant workers' jobs are going to be threatened by the budget, bosses warn. Obviously, a large part of the UK economy is in the service industry. Hospitality, restaurants, pubs is one of them. Unfortunately, pubs closing down at a massive rate at the moment, and that's only going to be exacerbated by this budget now. It says top pub and restaurant bosses have warned the Chancellor that tax rises in last month's budget will unquestionably cause closures and job losses. In a letter, more than 200 signatories said the hospitality industry is disproportionately impacted by an unsustainable hike in the amount that employers pay in national insurance contributions, and it adds that businesses have no capacity to pass the costs on to customers, which would instead lead to job cuts and closures of smaller firms. The budget, of course, went for the sort of middle ground. Smaller businesses, developing businesses didn't really go for the big guys, the top 1%. We really need to impose heavy taxes on the very wealthiest in society, those that can afford to shoulder the burden, whereas small businesses can't. And this is only, they go on about growth so much, the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, bang on about it all the time. But that doesn't match up with the effects of the budget, as you can see. Reeves said that national insurance changes for businesses would generate 25 billion, which would aid funding of public services such as the NHS. What that really means is they're going to be finding money for the NHS. It's because they're waiting for Wes Streeting to line up more privatisation, more deals, so that more public money can go into private companies. That's the way it's going to work. It's not, and this word reform, as I've said before, is scary, not in the political party sense, of course. Nigel Farage notwithstanding. But when they refer to the NHS and use the word reform, that essentially means privatisation. There's no two ways about it. It's a very thin veil. So that 25 billion would go into public companies, and people like Alan Milburn, who were heavily invested in private healthcare companies, it's just one example of the people being lined up to do that. It's absolutely appalling. So it goes on to say the rate will increase from 13.8 to 15%, and the threshold at which they start paying tax on each employee's salary will be reduced from £9,100 to the first £5,000. Signatories of the letter include Kate Nichols, who's the chief executive of UK Hospitality, the bosses of pub firms, Fullers and Stonegate Group, as well as Premier Inn's owner, Whitbread. the OBR's calculated that 3/4 of the impact of the national insurance changes will be felt by employees as bosses hold back on pay rises and hiring in the face of higher wage bills. I was, of course, disappointed with how little the minimum wage was raised in the budget as well. That's nowhere near enough to help out people who are employed on that rate, especially where you consider rates of inflation and so on. Sainsbury's chief executive, Simon Roberts, said on Thursday that the national insurance changes would cost the businesses around £140 million, a sum which does not include the increase to minimum wage. The boss of Wetherspoons said earlier this week, following the budget, taxes and business costs were expected to increase by approximately £60 million. He is, of course, the guy was called Tony something, is it? Was it Tim? God, I've forgotten his name off the top of my head. But he massively spoke out in favour of leaving the European Union. Obviously, a lot of pubs and restaurants took a hit when that happened, and now we've got this. Now we've got this from Reeves and Keith. Tim Martin, that was it. Thank you, Andy Carter, in the chat. But Sainsbury's was mentioned there. Isn't someone pretty high up in Sainsbury's actually a donor to the Labour Party? That'd be pretty ironic if that was the case. So that's it. I mean, you know, if you're working in the hospitality sector in catering, or if you work in a pub or a bar, please do let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you work for any places that are under the umbrella of those firms that were mentioned in the article? Please let me know in the comments. I'll try and get back to as many comments as I can. Obviously, during the live stream, most of you are in the chat, but I do get the occasional comment from people who watch on a replay. Yeah, that was it, Andy. Yeah, Lord Sainsbury himself was put in the House of Lords by Labour. Okay, so we're going to increase. That wasn't much of a deal, was it? He even screws over the people he's supposed to be giving cash for honours. Even people he was doing cash for honours with. You just can't trust Keith, can you? Yeah, and Tim, thanks for pointing that one out as well. Thanks for throwing that into the chat. Alan Sugar was made Labour's business czar. Lord Alan Sugar. Right, just quickly wanted to go through that breaking, developing news story, I guess. And also, I mean, I'll just quickly point out as well how the mainstream media have been fawning over the royal family recently. But there was a funny post that I saw. Massive, I think it must have been the Daily Mail, had this massive headline today. I actually noticed it as I was passing a newsstand. Kate is set to return to work. This is, of course, Prince William's wife, Kate. And so I pointed out on social media, asked the question, how would we know? As though that massively impacts millions of people's families, that huge headline. And also at one point earlier today, with it being Remembrance Sunday, they were all over the main news page as well. the brown nosing, just, you know, it's unbelievable. And we all know that's just a response to that Dispatches Channel 4 documentary that came out as well. You know, the powers that be have to try, you know, have to try and get us on the side of the royals as much as they can. Well, it's pathetic though, isn't it? It's pathetic. Absolute trash media we've got in this country. Right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I'm going to bring tonight's live stream to a close shortly. But please don't go anywhere. Please do hang around. I'm just going to check who I could possibly redirect into. And while I'm doing that, I just want to quickly say another massive thank you to all of the members on the channel. And we'll dip back into Keith's Fondue Lounge before we say our goodbyes. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks again everybody on that list there. I will of course update that. Thanks a bunch for the gift memberships that we've had this evening on the stream. Sorry, just bear with me, I'm trying to sort this out. I don't appear to have the option to redirect from the stream for some reason. It's quite bizarre. I'm just going to see. I might have to pop it in the. Might have to pop any link in the chat. Just bear with. Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. It's not giving me the option to redirect off. Tried going out, in and out again a couple of times. Right, let's just see. I'll check out if Helena at No Justice or Kev Logan's live, and if they are, then I'll post a link in the chat. Shout out to Helena at No Justice as well for recent shout-outs on her channel. Do recommend. Just take a look. Okay, it looks like Helena's not live at the moment. I've tried checking out Kev Logan as well. So yeah, apologies, there's not going to be any redirect or raid, but thanks a lot for sticking it out with me on another Sunday live stream. I'll be back with you through the week, of course, with Brews at 10. including PMQs on Wednesday. And yeah, I've got to get a couple of videos out this week as well, because I've been falling behind on longer form video content. So please do hit the notification bell, and then you can keep up with everything that's happening on My Left Eye. Just before I love you and leave you, please do make sure that you've hit the thumbs up button on the stream to help the channel reach a wider audience. Thanks a lot for all of your contributions in the chat as well, and a final thanks as well to Morbius and Head for those gift memberships also. So enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. I've been Lefty, you've been absolutely fantastic. Take care of yourselves. Until next time, My Left Eye, be seeing you soon. Good night.